Hello, this is Tanya Jones Awalusi coming to you from Butterfly Effect Counseling and Consulting LLC. Woo. You guys, we have a really good one today. And I know I always say this to you, but I have not lied to you yet. We have a good one today. So please make sure you have clicked, liked, and subscribed and hit the notification button so you don't miss a beat. Okay? Because the person I have today not only did one video, but they did two. And trust and believe they're dropping knowledge in both of these videos. Today we have my good friend, herbalist and coach, Jamard Banks. He is coming to us today to talk to us about what it is to be an herbalist. What is an herbalist? What do they do? What do they not do? What is the passion behind this? He's going to be coming to you today to tell you all about it. So please make sure you click like and subscribe because you don't want to miss video number 2, where he's going to be dropping some knowledge on the top 5 things that everyone should be doing to improve their health. He will also give us a little bonus, a little nugget of the number one thing that everyone should stop doing now. So, without further ado, before I do that, I just want to point out this is Jamard Banks, and he will always be Jamard Banks. But to me, I know him as Banks. And so, as you get to know my friend, please know that he is truly an educator at heart. And so, please welcome Jamard Banks, a herbalist and coach. So we have here Jay from Herbal Chemistry. Hello, Jay. How are you today?
Good. Excited to be here.
Good. I'm so glad that you agreed to do this. This is such a treat for us. And I'm happy. I'm happy that we finally could match up the calendars and do it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So today we're going to learn a little bit about what it is that an herbalist does and more particularly what it is that you do. So you're going to educate us today. We're excited. We're going to lock in and let's get going. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. So question number 1, Mr. J, what is a herbalist? Like, what should a person expect when talking to a herbalist? And then more specifically, what should they expect from you?
That's a really good question. And there, even with that question, is like a lot of layers. My wheels are already turning. But I'll keep it simple. And then if you give me the opportunity, I'll dive a little deeper. But essentially, an herbalist is someone who works with plants, and they work with plants in a way where we're able to identify specific phytochemical compounds that are in the plant and its ability to help others. So these phytochemical compounds can be either extracted, they could be tinctured, they could be crushed to turn into a poultice. It's about understanding the proper process in using these plants and then being able to take them from nature, with nature's permission, and then being used to enhance our health. And in a sense, herbalism can go as far as understanding nutrition, because a lot of the foods that we're supposed to consume do contain mostly plants. So we're supposed to consume certain things like tomatoes and spinach and lettuce and all of these plants. These plants contain these same phytochemical compounds as well. So an herbalist essentially is a person who uses this information to bring out the best and optimal health in a person. That's essentially what we do.
I love it. Now, I have known you for quite a while, and I think what I enjoy the most is seeing you in this era of your life, right? Just really, I'm just going to use the word geeking out over this. You're awesome at doing it. I love how you have kind of just embodied all of it. What should people expect when they work with you, right?
So I would like to think I have a little bit of an edge over some of my colleagues in the practice of herbalism. And sadly, I feel that herbalism has taken a wrongful turn, and not so much in it's because of the normal, I guess, the routine practice of Western medicine. And the Western medical mindset is that you go after a target, you find that target, and then you neutralize it. It's very masculine in nature, very finite, very, determined. So if there's a problem such as hypertension, you go to take a hypertensive medication. And what's happening nowadays with herbalism is that a lot of colleagues and practitioners are now following that same mindset. So instead of giving you an alternative approach, they're just giving you an alternative herb, which is no different from an alternative drug to use for a problem without getting to the root cause. And as a clinical herbalist, I practice holistic approaches. So my job is to get to the root cause, not to go after hypertension per se, but to understand why hypertension is there. And this is one of the things that a lot of people find a lot of difficulty getting answers for when they go to their physician, because they're not essentially trained to give a person a reason why. They can only go after the problem that's present. So working with me, I find I have a really good advantage because I'm looking for all the tiny little signs and symptoms to understand what is causing this the body's expression, essentially, is what we're looking for, because there's always a reason why. Nothing happens for no reason. There's always a cause and effect. There's always a catalyst that's involved. Our job is to find that.
I love that. I love that. Your job is to find it. So can you tell us kind of like what can a herbalist do versus what they can't do?
Well, I'll start with what we don't do. We don't diagnose, we don't prognosticate, we don't treat, we don't do anything like that. We're just people who know a lot about a lot of different things. That's pretty much the best way to put it. What we can do is we can help guide and consult when it comes to using herbs to enhance one's optimal well-being. That's pretty much the best way to do it. Now, with that being said, it's can using herbs optimize a person's health to the point where they have to go back to their physician to have their medications recalibrated? Absolutely. But of course, that comes alongside with a complete lifestyle change and an understanding the different modalities that contributes to a person's imbalances. Again, with Western medicine, we're always looking to find that one thing that's wrong, and we want to fix that one thing. And when we're doing that, we're looking for like instant gratification, almost like a microwave effect. And that's the one thing we want to try to avoid. We want to get to the root cause. And sometimes the root cause, for example, a person having poor sleep may be treated with a medication, but of course we know we can drink some tea or use some melatonin and we can get good sleep. But then the real question is, why are you not getting good sleep? What is your body missing? Is it missing a certain supplement? Perhaps it's magnesium that your body is looking to use in order to maintain its sleep. Now we end up covering it up with something else, and that's no good. So now the body has to look for a different way to express itself. So essentially, we fill in a very small niche in what I would like to call a petri dish of health, and that small niche needs to work alongside practitioners like you, because mental health plays a huge key. The physical health, the plant health, what plants you're utilizing. Your physician also still plays a huge part in that, as well as the other peripherals that you're going to be using. So your chiropractor, your colonic hydrotherapist, if you're meditating, are you exercising? All of these things make a petri dish, and we play a very small piece of it, but it's a very integral part of that health assessment.
Oh, I love it. I love how, as a person, we can have, right, like these multiple providers in our lives kind of working together to make sure that we optimize health. I love how you did that.
Yeah, it's just like when we say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to heal one person. Everyone, I find that a lot of practitioners, even in Western medicine or any of the I would say any of the groups of healing that pertain to healing a person, tend to think that they have the end all be all. And in reality, everyone has to contribute a small piece. What I do works well. And, but my job as an herbalist, as a soon to be PMP, which is a phytomedical practitioner or doctor of herbs, is to know the additional modalities that a person will require on top of my herbs. So
Yeah.
I can't expect that my herbs will do it alone, but electromagnetic pulse therapy in conjunction with a chiropractor, in conjunction with mental health, in conjunction with colonic hydrotherapy or what have you, all of those things put together can bring a person back to optimal health and well-being.
I love that. In our field, we call it collaborative care. So I love that
Love it.
that extends beyond our walls. So that's great.
Awesome.
Okay. Can you give us some examples of success? Any success stories that you have or examples of that?
I do have several success stories. I have one actually in particular that stands at the forefront. I had a client who was very elderly, and they were experiencing, this is during the COVID season, they were experiencing some very strange growths that was occurring externally on their body. And obviously they were, carcinogenic because they were growing, but they could not be seen for surgery. And I was able to come up with a protocol that was able to neutralize and actually destroy the blood vessels that were feeding the carcinogenic cells. And was able to buy them some time with, of course, significant lifestyle changes, changing their diet and things like that. All of these things combined was able to assist them in getting through the COVID season and then finally getting to surgery. And it was an amazing. I actually, it's funny, as my assistant at the time was really excited about it, and I think I was going through my own mental health battles, and I just was like, "It's okay. It's no big deal." And even to this day now, she still says, "Do you realize what you've done? How well you've assisted?" And I'm like, "It's a small thing. It's nothing." But that's one of the successes that I think really stands out for me, where how understanding a person's environment, as within, so without, what's on the outside and what's on the inside of their body, and the foods that you take in, how it really contributes to the proliferation and the growth and or success of every type of cell inside the body. So that's one of my successes. And of course, I've had thousands of clients that I assisted with the approach of detoxification. I've found that detoxing specifically is really good for mental health, which I know that's what really brings us together, because mental health is part of health, and it's sadly it's not considered as important as it should be. But in herbalism, we're taught that there's a physical body that needs healing, and there's an emotional body that requires healing. And a lot of us are walking around, myself included, without realizing it prior to, I was walking around with a broken arm and a broken leg and a dislocated shoulder in my emotional body. And that emotional body needed attention, but could not get the same validation that it would receive from Western medicine. And that's really going to show exactly how this masculine feminine approach, and when it comes to healing, is really substantial, because Western med is very masculine. It's what we can see, what we can feel, what we can touch, what we can taste. We know it's there, we can do something about it. But the abstract, the feminine, the mata, that part is what often gets overlooked, and it's very substantial, which is why a lot of in my field of prior to becoming a herbalist, I was in state law enforcement. And in my field, we had a lot of suicides, and I think it had contributed a lot to our over masculinized approach, which left our mental stability very frail. And we were very successful at, checking out, so to speak. And this was something that, we witnessed. It was every year. It's like, okay, whose funeral are we going to go to this year? And then we'd have 5 or 6. We'd find ourselves in the driveway. We find ourselves in the bathroom. We even hung ourselves. Like, it was absolutely insane, from the very first year to the last year when I retired.
Wow. Whew, that's deep. That's deep. I can definitely recall back in the day you telling me that, like, oh, there's always someone dying. And I'm like, wow, like, is anyone looking into this? Like, this is deep right here. Like, so
yeah.
Well, that kind of brings us, I like how you kind of put that in there, because it brings us to our next question, which is, can you tell everyone your passion behind your career shift and kind of what it has meant to you to shift from such a job as that into being a herbalist. Can you tell us more about that? What's your
All right.
passion?
If we have a little time, I will definitely share the story. So initially, I was always into medicine and healing. So I first got into being an EMT and had dreams of becoming either a nurse or working as a pharmacist. I then went from there to becoming a pharmacist assistant, or what they call a CPHD. I was a certified pharmacy technician. I was working for a chemotherapy hospital out in Passaic at the time. And it was fun. I mean, it was like being a bootleg chemist. We did raw chemical compounding. I was making hyperalimentations. I was making chemotherapy and negative pressure hoods. It was a lot of fun. We did a lot of science there. And at that time, pharmacists were transitioning. I think they had already transitioned into being what we call PharmDs. So essentially, they were doctors. And their primary function then, they wanted them to do things called medical step downs, where they would basically look at a physician's information, what they were doing for a patient. And then if if the patient's profile allowed it, the pharmacist could then take and kind of tune down their approach. So for example, if that patient was using like Lovenox, which is a low molecular weight heparin, then the pharmacist can say, well, you know what? They don't need this expensive heparin. We can give them the 2 cent version and we can change the script of the physician, and the physician would get mad, but essentially they couldn't do anything about it. So that left a lot of the traditional pharmacist work, which was raw chemical compounding and measurements and making things and converting things from one state to another, that fell upon us. So it was a really great experience. As I got into the last years, after I did about 8 years of pharmacy, I went and I got into the material management aspect of it. And once I started doing materials management, that's when I started to see the money, and how it basically, the pharmacy was the central unit of the hospital. Nothing moves without that pharmacy. And I started to see the despairing differences in cost. So, we would buy things, from one country for like 14 cents and then turn around and sell it here for several $1,000s. And it was like, whoa, this is bananas. And then I started to get more into the therapeutic approach of a lot of the different medications that we were using. So for example, we would use things like piperacillin-tazobactam, we would call it Piptazo for short. And we would give that for like 14 days. And then we would expect the patient to get like C. diff, and then we turn around and have to put them on vancomycin, and then we'd have to give them like 7 or 8 drugs on top of that just to counteract the side effects from the Piptazo and the vancomycin, to turn around and put them right back on Piptazo. And it was like a vicious cycle that never ended. And I lost I lost that glimmer, that glisten in Western medicine at that point. And I did a complete shift. I went from dropping my lab coat, and then I picked up a gun and a badge and became a state law enforcement officer. It was like that, and left healing behind, and been a state law enforcement officer for about 16 years, until I started having my own health issues roughly about 5 years ago. And I had the typical, gander at that time. I was hypertensive. I had high cholesterol. I had collapsed veins in my left leg. I don't know what that was about. I was supposed to get surgery on my knees. My testosterone was really low. My blood pressure was sitting at around 160 over 100. And I would sit still like I'm perfectly fine. I'm like, I'm fine. And my blood pressure was like creeping up. I was diabetic as well, type 2. Everything was going wrong. And I didn't understand the reasons why, because at the time I was always very physically active. And, you know me, I've always practiced jujitsu. So, I'm always training, and I didn't understand how all these things were happening. And in my small group of colleagues, which all of us were law enforcement, all of us were training in jujitsu and other styles of martial arts, I was like one of the last of 2 to be prescribed blood pressure meds. And I'm like, what's going on? And I wanted to know the answer why. So I went to my physician, and, with my numbers being all out of whack, he said, look, I got to put you on some medication. And of course, one of those drugs was a statin drug. And with having this history in pharmacy, I knew that statin drug was not going to help my testosterone anymore. So I was really deathly afraid. I'm like, I'm not taking that stuff. No way. So I did the next thing that anyone else would do. And I went to Google and I tried to Google my way to victory. Problem with Google is that it was very finite in its approach. So when you're looking, you start looking for things that are going to be pertaining to, fixing a problem, instant gratification. I have high cholesterol. You don't want to take the med? Try red yeast rice. This will help, or try this, or try that. So I started trying all these different things to go after the problem that I perceived, and none of them worked. So I did all of these different herbs. I went back to my doctor 3 months later. My numbers were exactly the same. Now I'm scared because now here comes the meds, and I promised I was going to take them. It was at that point I ended up running into an African herbalist who was in Uniondale, New York. And he got me started. So he started to explain the approach and why my approach was not working. And he ended up selling me some herbs, told me how to integrate some herbs that he sold in combination with some herbs that was growing in my backyard. And then he told me how to go on a raw foods, high spice diet, which I did. So I'm using these herbs and I'm taking all this stuff and I'm researching everything. And I started having a lot of stuff come out of me, and it was coming out of both ends. So I remember it was about 3 or 4 days. I felt like hammered poop, and I'm calling him. I'm like, am I supposed to feel like this? I feel pretty crappy. And he's like, sometimes you're going to have what's called like a Herxheimer's response. Because at the time I didn't understand that I had a lot of yeast in my body. So as a matter of fact, I remember getting like flaky skin around my lips and under my beard and all sorts of stuff where I would want to have a full facial hair because I needed to cover that flaky, but it would look like I had dandruff all in my beard and on my mustache. And I didn't, of course, looking at it, you would think it's something that you need topically, but the reality was I had way too much yeast. I had a very high Candida albicans load. And I started feeling bad because of the Herxheimer's response, because of the herbs that I was using was killing them. And I remember the first 3 to 4 days, I felt like hammered poop. And it was like the 5th day I woke up and I sat on the edge of the bed and I had a mirror on the side of my bed. And I looked and I said, I feel bleeping great. I had a potty mouth back then. And I'm like, I feel great. And the brain fog that I had at the time, I didn't even know I had, was lifted. Colors looked brighter. It felt like my vision was clearer. My brain felt lighter. I had way more energy. And it was easy for me to process things. And I embarked on this journey. Immediately, I found a non-federally funded school. I started researching herbs. The non-federally funded school is actually based in Italy. They have a hub here in Chicago, Illinois. And then they essentially taught me how to learn the uses of plants without having that kind of like governing control, of what should be used and what shouldn't be used and how to use it. So with that, I was able to start helping my colleagues who are also suffering from things like hypertension, just from understanding how plants work. So my own personal journey, after about 3.5 years of learning the proper cycle of detoxification and self-healing, I dropped a total of 72 pounds. I went from running 3 miles to 15 miles. I don't do too much running now. I do a lot of hiking though, but I will hike 15 to 20 miles. My testosterone went through the roof. I got 5 kids. You already know, don't ask me no questions. Energy is insane. My cognitive function increased. And I think that's the part that I really liked the most, was that I was able to retain and recall information very clearly. No longer type 2 diabetic. Hypertension, my blood pressure went down to about 110. So I'm no longer hypertensive, no more high cholesterol. Everything just kind of regulated itself just from, going through that process. And immediately I wanted to start a small company. I started herbal chemistry and wanted to share this information with everyone else because, once you experience something, you're like, man, you want to tell everyone else. So I was like super excited. I was jumping in head first and sharing this information with as many people as I could. And it became almost like a giant research project because everyone had different problems. And with each problem, it just kind of made me dive in very deep to figure out and help them understand the root causes. And that's pretty much, where we are today. So as of, I think the year before last, I actually resigned from law enforcement to pursue this full time. I was able to bring that connection of from the soil to your table, so to speak, because essentially that's what it's really all about, is really how the herbs are processed, how they're picked, understanding the science that validates the holistic approach, because we often think that science kind of discredits the holistic, but the reality is they're supposed to validate one another. Kind of like a man and a woman, they validate and they complement one another the same way science and holistic approaches are supposed to validate and complement. So my goal is to bring us all together and utilize all of the tools that are available for us to help, our clients and to help people become their optimal self.
Oh, I love it. The half of that journey I wasn't even aware of, and I love how you just took us all the way from the beginning. I didn't even know you were in the pharmacy world. So
Mm-hmm.
thanks for going all the way back. I thought we were just going a little bit back, but you went all the way back.
Well, it plays
It
yeah,
does. It plays a role. Yes,
it plays a role.
absolutely.
It was how I've kind of found my role in healing once again.
Yeah,
I was disenchanted,
yeah,
when I got in towards the end of Western medicine. I was like, this just doesn't feel right, and I wasn't getting any answers. And well, I'm healthy, I'm fine. And then when I became the target, and I remember sitting in a hospital with my kids coming to visit me, and I realized that if I keep going down this path, I'm not going to make it to 50. And sadly, a lot of my friends from high school, they're passing away before 50. And I'm like, what's going on? And I started to see this path as like I had to make a decision. And experience is the greatest teacher. So I appreciate all the, I guess, the negative things. I don't even want to call them that, but all of those experiences that had hard lessons, they
yeah.
did give a lot of information that I can reflect upon, and it made really good triggers or emotional signatures for me to pull upon when I make decisions in the future regarding the foods that I choose to eat, when I choose to eat them, how often I choose to eat them, as well as other things pertaining to maintaining health, such as exercise and stretching and yoga and meditation. All of these things are really important, which is essentially what I promote as a holistic health coach and clinical herbalist.
I love it. I love it. Oh, well, thank you for this journey because it has truly, I know it's helped me and my family. So I'm always appreciative of all the knowledge that you can give us. I want to know, or I want you to share, please, for everyone, what is the goal of herbal chemistry, or what is the goal that you kind of seek when you get a new client?
So I guess the primary goal is education, making people aware of, that there are options out there. A lot of my clients come in and they're not aware that there's colonic hydrotherapy. They never heard of electromagnetic pulse therapy. A lot of the things that are turned down or or looked away or looked poorly upon by Western medicine, we don't bat a second eye to look, and once we start looking at the data and we start looking at studies, and I'm really big on studies. I love science. I will read studies on PubMed and molecular biology all day. And when you start reading these studies and you're like, wow, this study is from 2018 showing that stinging nettles can put breast cancer cells in apoptosis. Holy smokes, this is really successful, but no one knows, and no one's going to advertise it. They're going to advertise, the traditional approach. And this is some stuff that grows in your backyard like all the time that we're usually throwing away. So the goal is education, essentially. Again, we don't diagnose, prognosticate, or treat. I don't give herbs that function to replace medicine. My only job is to educate the client and show them that they have options to improve their health and how plants can help improve their health. That's the best way for me to say it. Do I have clients that make changes on their own? Absolutely. I have nothing to do with it. That's all I can say. But several thousands of clients later, I let them tell you, what they want to tell you. But the goal is, again, education. I see in the big picture in the future, being able to teach and train other junior herbalists to kind of have a certain flow of including holistic approaches in their practice so that we don't get caught in a trap of replacing or trying to replace with either a supplement or another herb, because that is Western medicine at its base. Our goal is to support Western medicine and to bring health to the person, so that when you do go to the doctor, they can say, hey, you're really healthy, your numbers checked out, and you can go, great, not only am I reaching the benchmark, but I feel good enough to go run 8 miles too. Okay. Instead of us going to our doctor and we're like, I don't feel great. And they look at your numbers and they say, well, I don't see anything wrong. How many of us experience that? A lot of us do. And we're like, well, I don't see anything wrong. So maybe it's all in your head.
Yeah.
And what happens is it's almost like going to the mechanic. You're going to mechanic, you hear something ticking in your car. Something's not right. You drive this car every day and you take it to the mechanic. And the reality is they can't tell you because they're only using one form of diagnostics. Holistic approaches and herbalists, we're supposed to use several different forms. So I use in my office non-invasive diagnostic testing, where I'm looking at your fingernails. I'm asking you 20 and 30 pages of questions. I want to know, are you sleeping at night? Do you grind your teeth at night? Are you drooling when you sleep? All these things tell your body something. They're clues. And as long as we can read these clues and understand the expression that the body has, because the body's talking to you, we speak and communicate in ways beyond just our voice. And when we start looking at nature, we can see that a cat isn't well. The cat tells us it's not well without speaking. Same thing with a dog. So it's about really understanding the root cause. Another doctor, and I love this example he gives, he says, if you step on a dog's tail, the dog will bark. But you wouldn't put a muzzle on the dog. You would go after what stepped on his tail. Same thing happens with us. So our job is to start taking apart those little pieces of the puzzle and helping our clients become educated on how to continue to navigate through this experience we call life, and navigating this vehicle, this body, and what to do to maintain it and keep it optimal. That's basically it. So education would be the key.
I love that. I know there was one time you looked into my eyes and told me like 5,000 things that you could tell that I had never told you before. So that was cool. And then one time you like touched or looked at my wrist and you could tell me something about my stomach. I'm like, what? And you were spot on. I'm like, okay, all right, doing stuff.
Yes, the body is always telling. It's always telling.
Okay, so this is our last question. Okay. What is the biggest misunderstanding that you have come across working with your clients that you want to kind of clear up today in regards to being an herbalist?
That's a good one. I would have to say that this is not herbalists, because of a lot of herbalists coming out now, and people are becoming very empowered with the information of what plants can do for a person. A lot of times we start looking for, well, I'm not taking this medication. That's what a person would say, because they don't want to take it and they didn't get enough answers from Western medicine. So they go to an herbalist, and the first thing is, well, I don't want to take this. I want to do some plants instead. And when I start conversing, I explain that this is a journey. If you're looking for instant gratification or microwave effect, this is not the place to go. The idea is that I want to utilize the knowledge. I study phytochemistry, biochemistry, and environmental toxicity. There is no reason for a person to find benefit in using herbs to reduce their blood pressure if you're still eating pizza and donuts. It doesn't work, because all that's going to happen is the body's just going to re-express itself. It's talking. And if you don't want to listen to one, it's going to give you something else to listen to. So instead of your blood pressure going up, now it's going to swell up your feet. Or instead of swelling up your feet, it's going to cause indigestion. Or instead of causing indigestion, you will not sleep at night. And these effects begin to snowball. So what we do in herbal chemistry is we do a very slow and long approach towards reversing and understanding what you're up against in regards to living in America with genetically modified foods, and the genetic modifications that occurs inside your body when we consume them, and how they affect all the bacteria and fungus and yeast and viruses and things that live on and in us, and understanding how we're supposed to support them to continue to support us. Because we tend to think that it's just us in this world. And the reality is you are a walking, talking, breathing planet with 3 times as much bacteria living on you and in you than you have with cells. So we're just a planet, just like we're living on this planet. And sometimes the planet sneezes, and we need to make sure that we have that same sneeze in and on our bodies as well. So it's a journey. Health and holistic approaches is a journey. And it also requires detoxification, because if you live in America, you're exposed to it. You're breathing it, you're taking showers, you're exposed to sodium and calcium fluoride. If you are wearing blue jeans, depending on the type of dye that they use, it's soaking into your lymphatic system. You got toxins everywhere. And I spend less time now than I used to. I used to be very aggressive, but every package you pick up in the store, if you try to read those ingredients, it's almost as though our attention span can't get past the first three. And then when you start getting to the end, you start seeing things like for example, I did one recently on, what is it called? Zest. I think Zestfully Clean, the soap, or Irish Spring, which, we've always known was a really good mosquito repellent. But when you continue to read, one of the final ingredients on there is titanium dioxide. So there's a lot of studies on how poorly that particular metal functions inside the body, especially when it comes to estrogen, the central nervous system. And when you start getting into things like depression, anxiety, all these conditions that we're experiencing sometimes can have connections to the products that we're exposing ourselves to. So this information obviously takes a really long time, not just to learn, but to put into practice. Because a lot of us sometimes have a really big difficulty switching from one to the next, changing the diet. Now you want me to change my soap, Jay? Oh, now you want me to not use deodorant anymore? What are you talking? No, I'm going to continue to use this aluminum zirconium hydroxide or aluminum chlorohydrate, not realizing that these metals may contribute to things like Alzheimer's, depression, all these other issues that we're suffering from. So I said all that to say that this is essentially a journey. It is not instant gratification. It is not a microwave effect here.
Ooh, when you said herbal chemistry is for education, absolutely. Because I learned so much and you're dropping the knowledge today. So I thank you so much for this. We want to know, how can we get a hold of you? Like, where can we find you? What's your contact details? And do you have anything going on? Where do we find you, Jay?
So you can go to herbalchemistry.com, and our website pretty much has everything on it. Limited on the information. I like to kind of reserve that for when we have our clientele and then we give them access to more information. But you can reach us there. We currently have external hike and forage. It is currently active now. So we actually have been working in the Middlesex County area of New Jersey. If clients choose to come out and meet up with us in different trails, we take and hike you maybe about a quarter of a mile into the trail, teach you about the herbs, some of the holistic approaches to using them, and then we create an intimate connection with a specific plant for that person. And then upon coming back out, we teach you how to extract, process, and use that herb. So this herb becomes something that is part of your mental arsenal. You'll always be connected to it. You'll always see it. You don't know why you've always seen it, but it has some type of special connection with you and all of its uses. And that's one of the ways to kind of go from the soil to your table or to your cabinet. Currently, we also are running a group detox, which we do generally every season. And it's really important. I can talk forever about detoxification and how that works. But in short, every season we detox, and it's to prepare the body for the up and coming season. So different detoxes attack or target specific zones of the body. So this particular one we're doing is called clean and chelate. And the process of chelation is the ability to assist the body in removing and stripping artificial excess metals, which essentially love to duplicate estrogen. And that's one of the primary reasons why a lot of both men and women are suffering from so many issues when it comes to our reproductive system, because metal is everywhere. And aluminum specifically duplicates and tricks the brain into believing that it's estrogen, which lowers your own estrogen production. And then in turn, it will lower your testosterone. So we have all of these exposures to these metals. One of the testing I like to use is called HTMA. But during this detox, we aggressively go after those metals, flush them out over a 21 to 24 day period. And then you're pretty much reset and ready to go. It does include fasting for most of the clients. So we do fast for several days. I think with this one, we're doing 7 days of fasting. So anytime you're doing that many days, you want to make sure you have a coach or a holistic practitioner who really knows how to get you through that many days. I never suggest anyone to do it on their own unless they've become very, very well versed in knowing exactly what to do and how to do it. because there's so much involved in what type of proteins you should be consuming prior to fasting. A lot of people eat pizza the day before their fast and they start fasting. Absolutely incorrect. Don't ever do that. Some people will drink bone broth while they're fasting. Technically, you're not fasting if you're doing that because you're consuming 20 grams of protein. So all that is included in the detox. And yeah, I think we also do presentations for large groups as well as the hike and forage. So that's essentially what H&K has been doing. Once I finish my education and get my PNP as which is a phytomedical practitioner, that's when we're going to get into educating and teaching other soon-to-be practitioners as well. And then I can go out to the forest and retire and hug trees for the rest of my life.
I love it. I love how even though we're talking about how can we contact you, you're still educating us. I love it. You're always educating, Jay. Always. And I just want to point out that's herbal chemistry with a K, not a CH, right?
That is correct. It's herbal chemistry with a K, no CH, all one word, herbalchemistry.com. And then you can also find us on TikTok. We're on Instagram. I have YouTube videos, one of which is really disgusting if you want to know what parasites look like and the biofilm that they're attached to. That's a whole nother topic, but it has several warnings. And then I think we're also on Facebook as well.
Yes. So I'm going to take your information. I'll make sure it's in the description so people can just click and find you. I thank you so much for being here. Can you just tell us real quickly, because I love this, what is your TikTok name?
My TikTok name is Herb Gotti.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Jay, for being here, for giving us all this knowledge. Everyone, please click on the links and make sure you connect with Jay because he's out here educating us and doing it big. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Peace and good health, everyone.